Hey there everyone, and I thank you so much for tuning into yet again another episode of My Orchid Adventures with me, Maria Young. And today folks, you are invited to take part in yet again another very interesting and exciting experiment, one that will be beneficial if it does work, because indeed it can change the very way that we are growing our orchids today. And I think one of the most frustrating dilemmas that we have is when we have orchids that seem to refuse to want to produce roots. And folks, we get so overly concerned because we're not sure if it's going to produce enough roots to sustain itself, whether it be because the orchid is sick or perhaps sulking, or perhaps it's just a cakey that does not seem to want to cooperate. So indeed, we want to try new and different methods to try to promote root growth in order for our orchids to grow healthy, and rest assuring us that indeed they will thrive, prosper, and flourish. Now, if you guys have been following my videos, you guys already know that I have several different techniques and methods that I use to promote root growth. So definitely there are several ways, and I show you that in my videos. If you have not seen them before, go ahead and click like right here, and it'll take you to those videos so you can see the methods that have worked for me. But today, folks, we are going to be trying something new and different, something that I haven't seen anyone else do yet, so indeed this could be brand new. And this is what I believe, folks. I believe that we need all the help that we can get, because even with the many different methods that we have, sometimes they don't always work. And the way that I see it, folks, the more cards you have in your hand, the better you're going to be able to play the game called growing your orchids healthy. And this mission at hand, folks, all started because I was having many conversations on Facebook in regards to how to promote root growth, and many of you guys have had many different issues about your orchids on that subject. Now, one particular conversation that I did have mentioned that there may be a product that we could use in regards to trying to promote some of these roots. Now, of course, the method was to use a substance that's normally commonly used for garden plants. Now, as we know, orchids and garden plants are two separate animals, so of course I was unsure that it would even work. But you guys know, folks, I am quite the adventurous grower. I definitely don't like to say no to trying out new and different methods. I am willing to try something at least one time. That is why we are supposed to be adventurous, so we can learn and grow, right? Wouldn't you agree? So that indeed is what I plan on doing here. I'm not quite sure if it works or not, so don't quote me. I never said that. Never will I admit to that. So folks, this is my disclaimer. This is just an experiment. I am not sure if it'll work quite yet. I do not recommend or suggest that you try this, but instead I would like to ask you to stay tuned to this adventure and see indeed. Let me be the guinea pig to show you if it works or not, and of course if we get the thumbs up on it and it is successful, indeed only then would I suggest attempting something like this. But before we start our very exciting, very wonderful experiment, I definitely want to give you a better understanding of the difference between orchid roots and also your common regular garden roots, because they are definitely different. Okay, so the example that I'm using today is this Vanda orchid, and this is considered an epiphyte, which means that they commonly attach via their roots to plants, trees, and other vegetation. And because these roots are multifunctional and serve in many different ways to assist this plant to grow and flourish, we also have to understand that indeed it's going to be a whole lot different than your common everyday garden plants. Because as you can see here, these roots are fully exposed to the natural conditions of nature. So indeed it has to be strong enough and clever enough to be able to accommodate this plant in its survival. Okay folks, so enough talk. Let's go ahead and cut away this orchid so I can show you up close and personal exactly what I'm talking about. Okay folks, and here we have a segment of the root, and as you can see, it's very fleshy. this entire segment is not the root itself, because in actual reality, the root is probably about 5 or 10% of this actual, what we consider root. Because if you take a look in the center, if you can see right there, that dot, that is actually the root itself. All that extra flesh, that extra fluff is actually called filament, in which that coating, that filament, is there to act as a sponge where it can actually absorb the moisture and of course get the nutrients to the plant. Now of course that filament also has something in it that acts as a retainer where it can absorb and also retain the moisture. So let's take a closer look and show you exactly what the root truly is. Okay folks, and here we are. This is an up close and personal look of an orchid root that has been completely split in half. And as you can see, if we take a look at the center, you're seeing that thread-like material. And if I go ahead and pull it out for you, that's right, that is what is considered the true root, the actual root, and everything else is what we call the filament. Okay, as you can see, that's how thin and thread-like the actual root is from the filament coating that is around it. And that, my friend, is the difference between your orchid root and your regular garden plant root. So indeed, again, a major difference. Okay, so with that in mind, I want to talk to you a little bit further on the substance that we are going to be using on our experiment today. This is actually a rooting hormone in powder form that is commonly found in your garden centers. Now, this is created for your garden plants. Again, I said garden plants, where you would actually take the clippings of a garden plant and you would take it, and of course you're seeing that powder-like form, and you would swirl it around in here, of course ensuring that the whole clipping area that you want it to root at is covered with this powder. And then of course afterwards you would carefully place that cutting into soil. So that's how you would normally use it for garden plants, but of course we are using it on our struggling orchid plants today. But because these particular plants are orchids and these particular plants do not grow in soil, I'm going to be showing you different methods that we can use this rooting hormone on these orchids right here, in hopes that indeed this experiment would work. Fingers crossed, folks. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the orchids that we are going to be using in this experiment today. Here we have the Renanthera calcium. And this right here was growing fine for me. Then all of a sudden it caught some sort of rotting at the end. I actually had to cut it off and of course use antiseptic so that would not spread. And then it grew these roots, but then all of a sudden it stopped. I mean, it got stunted for whatever reason. I do not know, but these roots have been this way for about 3 months now. So it indeed is stunted. We need help. We need more roots on this guy. And this right here is an Aerides bellina. And at first it was growing very, very well. It actually produced for me a very beautiful and unique bloom. And then all of a sudden it started drying out really bad. And look at those wrinkles on those leaves. Very paper thin and crispy. And if you take a look at the roots, a lot of the roots died back. Yeah, it has about maybe 2 roots that are left that are decent, I suppose. But yeah, you can see this needs a lot of help as well. And oh my goodness, this is a recovering rescue orchid from like 6 or 7 months back. This is a Brassavola nodosa that experienced some sort of rotting. It appeared to be black rot. And yeah, this suffered tremendously. This is like a quarter size of what the plant used to be. Oh my gosh, I had to keep cutting away and cutting away because indeed that rot was spreading pretty badly. But now it's been about 5 months and no signs of any type of rotting anymore. But let's take a look at the root. Not looking very good at all, right? But the good news on this little guy is the fact that you are seeing some growth in here, some new growth coming right along. And there's about, I would say about 4 or 5 new growths that are coming on. So indeed, it's still trying to survive, and I would say 6, 7 months. It does deserve to survive, right? So we're gonna try all that we can for this little guy. And this right here is our dendrobium, and as you can see, it appears that this is one cane that has continued to grow, correct? Well, in actual reality, if we take a closer look, this is actually a keiki that has grown at the very tip of this cane. Now, you couldn't really tell it because, as you can see at the base, there is absolutely no root growth at all. But if we turn this little plant around, I want to show you, look here, this little keiki is actually mature enough to come into bloom or spike, because that's what it's doing now. It's creating a spike right there. So indeed, what we want to do is provide enough energy for this plant by growing its root. Hopefully we can do that so that we can go ahead and transplant it, and it can have its own little growth system, and it won't have to depend on this dendrobium mama. And the materials that we are going to be using in this experiment is this container that is filled with this moistened sphagnum moss. Also, we have this container right here with some mesh material that we're going to be using to secure some of this sphagnum moss onto an orchid. Also, we have right here a teaspoon, which we're going to measure the hormone rooting powder. And here we have this 2-liter container that's actually filled with 1 liter of water. And here is our makeshift terrarium, and if you look closely, you will realize that this is actually nothing but a slushy container. Indeed, you can practically use whatever materials you have to make a makeshift terrarium, which I love, by the way. I use them for everything. Also, we have this container that is filled with Listerine. I am an avid user of Listerine as an antibacterial, anti-fungicide, and also as a pest remover or a pest deleter or a pest chaser awayer. Okay, this can be used for practically everything. Listerine, the gold variety, indeed, thumbs up. Also, we have this container right here, which is a makeshift watering bottle, just like that. As you can see, this is homemade, and of course, another juice or soda bottle is all I used. So, voila! Those are the materials that we are using today. And here we are, folks. I'm just trying to get that powder in here, and this is a teaspoon of leveled hormone powder. And we have to be very cautious trying to get this in there. But yeah, that's what we're doing, is getting this in there, and then we're going to shake it up. And oh boy, did we make quite a mess, or did we make quite a mess? But yes, indeed, we got the powder in there, finally. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shake it up, shake it up, shake it, shake it up, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake, shake, shake. Okay, folks, and just to ensure that this is completely dissolved within this water, I actually shook this up for a good 5 minutes, rigorously, vigorously, just shaking it up, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, oh. Anyways, yeah, we want to make sure it is completely dissolved in this water before we go ahead and use that. And now comes the fun part. Here we go, filling up the bottle. And here we go, folks. I'm actually moistening down the sphagnum moss with the actual powder in liquid form now. And we're just gonna go ahead and soak it up, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and drench this out too as well. I just wanna make sure it's in there. And then afterwards, of course, I'm gonna take it, and we're just gonna take out the extra, just like that. So, because what we want is the sphagnum to be moist, but of course not overly drenched. Now for this aridus right here, I think he's gonna need a lot more work. We're actually gonna take this out of its container and definitely do some cleanup on the roots, and then spray it down with some good old Listerine as its antiseptic, just ensuring that there's no type of infection on this orchid right here. And of course, we're gonna totally put it in a new container, one of my clear homemade pots right here, so we can monitor it closely as it recovers. And here we go. Yeah, we're just gonna take it right out. Don't worry, the roots are dead anyways. And then we're gonna go ahead and spray it down with our antiseptic. And then we're just gonna go ahead and cut away all of this dead root. Yeah, it's not needed. We're gonna give it a clean start. What do you say, guys? Fresh new beginning. And then we're going to utilize this sphagnum moss that has been moistened down with that hormone powder in liquid form. And we're going to go ahead and fill this part way. And I'm not really mashing it down again. I just want it very loose in this container. And then I'm going to take the actual beloved little guy and we're going to place him in there. And of course we're going to begin to fill around as well. Of course, just lightly putting it into the container. And I'm going to take care of this orchid as normal. The only difference is, of course, it is in sphagnum moss, so it's going to retain that moisture a whole lot longer. And I would say about every 3 watering, I'm going to spray it down with that hormone fluid. And of course, we're going to monitor this as well. And I think he is on his way to a full recovery. Oh, and if you guys want to add a little bit more humidity for this little guy right here, even though he's in a pond, we can go ahead and stick him into this makeshift terrarium right here. And of course, as you guys know, it's a slushy cup. And there you go, add the lid. And yeah, voila, a makeshift terrarium. Just a little bit more warmth and humidity for this guy. Okay, so for this Renanthera, what I decided to do is we're going to go according to the instructions of this hormone powder. And as you can see, I've been soaking it so it's moistened at the tip. We're going to go ahead and take it out and we're going to go put it in this powder material. And indeed, there it is. You see it, and we're just tapping the material away. Just ensuring that it still has pretty nice coating of that powder. And then we're going to lightly fill this container, just like a quarter full. And then we're going to stick the calcium orchid right in there. And of course, we're going to lightly fill this container. Just lightly. I don't want to pack it down at all. I don't want too much moisture in it. I just want enough to create warmth and humidity for this plant. And that's how we're practically going to leave it. And we're going to monitor it closely and see exactly how it does. And as you can see, this is wiggly wobbly. It's not secure in any way. That's not my intention. I'm not trying to secure it down. This is not its permanent station. But indeed, I just want to allow the moisture to continue to get in there. And if I have to water it, I will just mist it down and spray it from time to time. That's all. And for this Brassavola nodosa, all I'm going to do is fill this up with water. This is how I'm going to water it. I would say maybe once every 3 watering, and just let it soak for maybe about an hour and then let it dry. Again, like every 3 watering, I'll use this powdered liquid form. And with this dendrobium right here, being that there are absolutely no roots at all at the base of the keiki, my plan is to take the sphagnum moss and find a way to secure it right here so that indeed it'll have a whole lot more moisture here that is retained for a longer amount of time, and indeed it's going to encourage, hopefully, roots to grow right at the base. And we're going to do that, folks, by securing that sphagnum with this mesh-like material. This is what you will commonly find in your grocery store that contain your vegetables or your oranges, your apples. You've seen it before. So indeed, I just cut it into strips and I'm going to secure that sphagnum just like that right onto this plant. So let's go ahead and do that. And here we are, folks. All I did was line some sphagnum moss right on top of this mesh material, and then we're going to lift it up together, and then we're going to go ahead and maneuver it to where we can secure it to the plant. And here we go, just carefully gathering it up together, trying to hold all of that sphagnum in that mesh. And look at here, we're just going to go ahead and wrap it around just like that, folks. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Yeah, it might take a little while, but you can do it, folks. You can do it. If there's a will, there is a way, and there is a way. Yes, there is. Ta-da! Yeah, I might have to take another strip, but we indeed can do that until it works. There we go, right here. And look at there. I just took another strip and put it on there as well, just to secure it snugly. And this actually expands, so you're not going to cut off any circulation. I mean, it's good to go. There you go, there you go. See that? It wasn't that hard, folks. And that's a great way to hold that sphagnum in here. And again, this is airy and breathy. Of course, good air circulation could get in there so it can dry out and whoop. Oh my gosh, so violent. Sorry about that. And then of course you just cut off the extra material so it won't be all over the place. But yeah, that's basically it. And of course, we would spray this down from time to time. I'm watering it like normal as the rest of them. And then like every 3 watering, I'm going to spray it down once again with that hormone fluid. So there you go. Ta-da and voila. And there you have it, my friends. This is our orchid experiment of the day, where we took different kinds of orchids and we used different types of methods using this rooting hormone powder that is commonly known to be used only for garden plants. Dun-dun-dun-dun. But we were bold, we were brave, and we were very courageous in saying that we can also use it for our orchid plants. Fingers crossed, of course. So indeed, we will have to see, folks. But I can tell you this, if this works, folks, this will be yet another weapon in our arsenal that we can utilize to grow our orchids healthy and happy, flourishing and growing so merrily. Indeed, that is our whole goal, folks. And if you guys have done a method that is not so common, please share with us how you also promoted root growth. We would like to know as well, because it's all about learning and growing, folks. So indeed, let us know what you've done to encourage root growth, and be sure to go ahead and post it like below. Indeed, folks, what do you think? What do you think? Can it work? Will it work? And please, finger crossed that indeed it will. And I thank you folks for once again tuning in to yet another wild and crazy orchid adventure with me, Maria Young. And of course, if you like this video, will you please be sure to give it a thumbs way up. And if you want to learn more about my orchid adventures, stay posted to the latest and greatest news, be sure to subscribe. And of course, you guys already know I'm also on Facebook, of course, having a great old orchid time. So indeed, you are invited to join me on Facebook as well on My Orchid Adventures right on Facebook. And if you guys want to snail mail me and reach me via snail mail, please be sure to do so at the address like right here. Again, I thank you guys so much for tuning in to yet another orchid adventure. And you guys already know I love you all like duh.